Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for House of the Dragon, Episode 10, The Black Queen. This is the season finale. Now, we have done a lot of dodging spoilers because the episode leaked early. So if you're here, if you're with me now, I will get into spoilers, but that will be later on in the video. You'll have plenty of warning because I think there's some things I really want to touch on. So the first part of the video will be non-spoilers, but first let's talk about the people behind the camera. We have as the director Greg Yaitanes, who directed 3 episodes total this season. The Rogue Prince, second of his name, and then this one, The Black Queen. This was written by Charmaine the Great and Ryan J. Condal. And of course, this is all based on the work of George R. Martin. So I will go over some of the cast that was more relevant to this specific episode. So I guess because we know that the previous episode, The Green Council, I only really talked about Team Green. In this one, we'll talk a little bit about the main people in I guess we'll call it Team Black. Uh, and then I will get into a little bit of when I get into spoilers, I'll talk about some more of the people that maybe you wouldn't know immediately if they are, whose side they're on. Um, really, really good stuff. This was a fantastic finale. You can really sense the tone of this episode was set from the beginning. Now, I guess there is a little bit of a content warning. We have some, as in the first. I mean, we've had this really go throughout the whole season, but there is some childbirth stuff in this episode. So be advised. But I mean, this whole thing sets up really the tone of the episode, very grim, but also just really, really like everything that's happening right now. It's very important to the future of what's going to happen in this show, which I really, really enjoyed. There's a lot of really strong performances. Emma Darcy as Rhaenyra Targaryen, uh, like just fantastic, fantastic work. The way that Rhaenyra can switch her tone or the her grimace, like just the way that she can just flip that switch when needed, is great. This episode probably was Emma Darcy's best performance. Um, we also have Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, of course. He's been fantastic the whole season. But this episode is revealing even more layers to that character, which I really like to see. We also have a big shout out to well, I guess not kids, but Rhaenyra's children. First of all, also, really big shout out to Rhaenyra's children, who are played by Harry Collette, who is Jace Velaryon, and then we also have Elliot Greyholt as Lucerys Velaryon. Uh, they put on really great performances. I will say, I think the characters that have been a little bit underserved in this past few episodes, because I know they're supposed to be an important part of the book. Bethany Antonia as Baela Targaryen, and Phoebe Campbell as Rhaena Targaryen. Hopefully, their characters will be folded more into the story. We know that I think as dragon riders, all those characters have very important roles to fill into what's coming up in this show. So, really great stuff. Overall, I mean, the music is always amazing in the show. Like, that is one constant that it really resonates really throughout all of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Like, the music's always been great. This episode has some really, really good pieces that come back and they really reverberate throughout the season. There's a lot of parallels with some episodes that we've seen before, both with the music and the composition of the scenes, which I'll touch more in detail in the spoiler part in a minute. But overall, very strong finish. We have one of my favorite sequences overall, like in the show, like overall, like just an action sequence that is fantastic. We get to see a little bit of uh, explore more of this world, which is always very interesting. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. There is a line that I can tell you, I think, without context. very little spoiler in there, which was one of my favorite things I've heard this season. Dragons are faster than ravens and far more convincing. And I mean, this is really the theme of everything that's going on, right? Aegon the Conqueror came in with the dragons, and that's why they were able to conquer Westeros. So all this stuff kind of has been reverberating throughout the tradition of conquering and war and everything that is in this world so far. So how do we get from this point to what we've seen in Game of Thrones, where there were even no dragons in existence? I think that'll be a big part of this show. So yeah, it was just a great finale. I'm very satisfied. I can't wait to rewatch the season because I think there's so many other details that I missed, and just really interesting through lines that probably were dropped in from the beginning. I think the writers are very smart in this show, so I really enjoy that. Um, all right, now we're gonna get a little bit into spoilers, so please be warned. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode. Make sure you're caught up on the season, and then come back because I want to touch on just a few things that I really enjoyed in this last episode, but they are very spoiler heavy. So you have been warned. First of all, Queen Rhaenyra does have a child who is stillborn. And then the funeral rites, I really want to mirror them between how Viserys, how he was taken care of in his funeral rites. He was, I guess, denied a Targaryen funeral because he was kind of, his funeral rites were under the guise of the Seven, as opposed to the Targaryen tradition, which this baby that was, this baby that was unfortunately not born, um, he receives Targaryen funeral rites. Really interesting because it really sets up the different or big differences between what's going on in Team Green and then Team Black. We also have a really cool contrast between the crowning ceremonies. Uh, um, Sir Eric shows up. Sir Eric Cargill shows up. One of the Cargills. I don't. Their names sound the same, but they're spelled differently. I don't know which one's which. Uh, but nonetheless, yeah, he shows up with Viserys' crown and presents it to Rhaenyra after the funeral. And there we see that even though this was a smaller event because there wasn't as many people, there was not as much pomp and circumstance for it. It feels more legitimate. Like, just, I mean, to me, it just felt that way, right? It feels like you don't need all this grandeur, like all this extra adoration or whatever you want to call it, because you know the legitimacy, that you believe in the legitimacy of your claim. So very good. I love that scene. I love that comparison. There's a lot of parallels between this episode. It's almost as if they're mirrors of each other. Really interesting to see. We get some really cool mentions of Starks, Baratheons, Lannisters. So I think those characters and those houses may be folded into the show later on in future seasons, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing. We also have a parallel to the scene at Dragonstone where Rhaenyra came to stop. Uh, when the Hand confronted Daemon on the bridge. We have a parallel to that scene where Rhaenyra shows up in her dragon, but this time, of course, she's on the other side. But I like that Rhaenyra's main concern is to keep the peace in the realm. That's what the king should do. She's trying to follow Viserys' wishes that way. So really cool stuff. And then last but definitely not least, we finally have the confrontation I think a lot of us have been waiting for. Aemon and Lucerys have a stare down at Storm's End with when they both go see Boros Baratheon to see where he remains loyal to, and we finally have our first dragon fight, like really big dragon fight. Now, unfortunately, we have Arax, who is a smaller dragon that belongs to that belongs to Lucerys, going up against Vagar, who belongs to Aemon, who's like the largest dragon in the world, I guess. And it was very much not a big contest, but the whole sequence was amazing. It was during the Storm's End definitely earning its name, living up to the name. So very cool stuff. I love this episode. It was so good. I can't wait to watch it again. I can't wait to watch the season again. Maybe even start Game of Thrones again, because I have plenty of time until 2024 when we will have season 2 of House of the Dragon. So thank you everyone that has been watching our reviews. We don't do a lot of shows weekly, but House of the Dragon, you guys had gave us the views, and you know, and you were there for that content. So stay tuned for that. Also, make sure to check out our shorts. We have been launching a lot of YouTube shorts. I think people like to see those very small snippets of little things. We'll talk more about stuff. We may do some House of the Dragon shorts just to talk about the characters throughout the season, stuff like that. Let us know what you want to see down in the comments of the video. And of course, stay tuned, because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, movie reviews, all that fun stuff here in the channel. And as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Bye bye.